What's going on? Alex here, and today I'm answering your tax questions from Reddit. And today's topic is how to deal with the IRS when they don't answer the phone. How are you supposed to resolve issues if you can't even get in touch with them? Let's take a look. All right, so this question comes from SI2K18 and goes as follows. How to escalate when I can't get in touch by phone with the IRS? Still waiting on a 2019 refund. Filed by the deadline, no tax issues ever. No mail received asking for additional info. Got my 2020 return, no problem. I know everything is backed up, but their site says to reach out after 21 days, and it's been over a year. For months, I've tried calling morning, afternoon, night on different numbers, different options, can't get in touch with a human. It hangs up on me every time saying there's overwhelming call volume. My next move is to request a transcript to confirm they received it, although I did get confirmation by TurboTax that it was accepted by the IRS. And see if maybe they sent a paper check that got lost instead of direct deposit as was requested. Any other recommendations to get an answer? Do I need to send a certified letter to inquire? I don't mind waiting, but the time that has passed has me concerned, and I don't want to wait too long, and that causes more issues. Well, SI2K18, I feel your pain, and so does anyone else who's tried to reach out to the IRS lately. They are extremely backed up, and that is an understatement. Reason being is because there was a tremendous backlog due to COVID. So they had people working from home, they had reduced staff, all that stuff, and then the mail just kept piling up, and paper returns and people that couldn't get their issues resolved were all piling up as well, and now they're all reaching out now that the IRS is starting to get back on track. So with that, there are tremendous backlogs to deal with. And unfortunately, anybody who tries to call the general IRS number is very likely to be booted right about now. And what they do is, instead of putting you on hold for an inordinate amount of time, they'll just tell you, hey, there's nobody available. We can't take your call due to excessive call volume, and they'll hang up on you. And usually what we advise clients to do, if they want to reach out to IRS on their own, that's a service we offer, but some clients like to do it themselves. In that case, we always said, hey, call them right when their business hours open. So if they're set to open at 8 a.m., you call them at 8:01 a.m., and usually the wait time was extremely short. Similarly, right at the end of the day, a few minutes or half an hour before they're set to close, usually that was a good time to call. Now all of that is going out the window, unfortunately, because people have caught on to those tricks of getting somebody on the phone earlier rather than later, and now throughout the entire day, all the systems are clogged up. So in this case, what do we do? Now, one aspect of the IRS is what's known as the Taxpayer Advocate service, all right? And the TAS was set up to be a branch within the IRS, or a division, I should say, that helps resolve matters in which the IRS is dragging their feet. Now, to be perfectly clear, the Taxpayer Advocate Service does not get involved when the IRS takes a few extra days to do something, or they're not really responsive to phone calls, things like that. They get involved in more serious matters typically. So taking a look at that, if you Google Taxpayer Advocate Service, you'll get this IRS page, and it has the following information. COVID-19 response, limited services and delays due to coronavirus. If your refund is delayed, our ability to help may be limited. Okay, so if you click that link, it tells you that basically there are large number of backups, and that's what's causing the issues. Even so, the IRS can't help in some cases. In reading this, it says the Taxpayer Advocate Service is aware that taxpayers are experiencing more refund delays this year than usual. Typically, the IRS processes electronic returns and pays refunds within 21 days of receipt. However, the high volume of 2020 returns being filed daily, the backlog of unprocessed 2019 paper returns, IRS resource issues, and technology problems, excuses, have been causing delays. This is in part due to the IRS need to manually verify large numbers of refund recovery credits, all that other good stuff. Basically, they have a whole list of excuses, but they do have a link for their case criteria for cases that they do take on. Again, Taxpayer Advocate Service is going to hear you out. They're going to say, what is the issue that you're having? And if it's a minor thing, a minor inconvenience, a little setback in terms of your dealings with the IRS, they're probably not going to take your case, to be very clear and upfront. But if it meets certain criteria, then they can be extremely helpful. And let me elaborate on that. if you look at the IRS as a police force, all right, Taxpayer Advocate Service is like special forces. They can get things done. And I've worked with them in the past on behalf of clients to get issues moved along that have been waiting for a number of months or even years. And I will tell you that things start moving once they get involved. I don't know what kind of incentive structure they have, but it seems like their compensation is linked to how many cases they resolve in what amount of time. I'm not sure if that's actually how it works, but it seems that way. And I would never expect a typical so-called IRS person to call me back and respond to a question that I had earlier. But Taxpayer Advocate, they actually will call you back, follow up with you, make sure your case is moving, and they can be extremely helpful and effective when the IRS is dragging their feet. But again, not every case is suitable for a Taxpayer Advocate to get involved. Now, going back to what it said here, there's the case criteria. So if you click that link, you'll get this document here, which is the case acceptance criteria. And we can see that it's separated into a few different categories. Now, one of them is economic burden. Let's take a look. This means that economic burden cases are involved in financial difficulty to the taxpayer. An IRS action or inaction has caused or will cause negative financial consequences or have long-term adverse impact on the taxpayer. So again, it has to be fairly significant for them to take it on, be able to help you. Let's look at the criteria. The taxpayer is experiencing economic harm or is about to suffer economic harm. Criteria 2, the taxpayer is facing an immediate threat of adverse action, meaning they could have received an IRS notice that said, we're going to put a lien on your assets, we're going to levy property, seize property, things like that. The taxpayer will incur significant costs if relief is not granted, including fees for professional representation. And fourth, the taxpayer will suffer irreparable injury or long-term adverse impact if relief is not granted. So the summary there is it has to be fairly serious for them to take on your case in the subtext of economic burden. Let's look at systemic. The taxpayer has experienced a delay of more than 30 days to resolve a tax account problem. Okay. The taxpayer has not received a response or resolution to the problem or inquiry by the date promised, or a system or procedure has either failed to operate as intended or failed to resolve the taxpayer's problem or dispute with the IRS. Now, under regular circumstances, this may be a way to address a matter that's been pending for a year and citing that you're not able to get in contact with anybody. But given the fact that COVID has created such unprecedented circumstances, this may not get there. All right. Doesn't hurt to try to reach out to IRS Advocate Service and plead your case, explain the situation, and see if they'll help. But just know that given the current circumstances, you may be prevented from having them help you just because you can't get in contact with regular IRS by phone, to be very clear. Let's keep going. Best interest of the taxpayer. The manner in which the tax laws are being administered raises considerations of equity or has impaired or will impair the taxpayer's rights. Okay, we may not come across that every day, but it's out there. And then finally, public policy. And the National Taxpayer Advocate determines compelling public policy warrants assistance to an individual or group of taxpayers. All right? Now, not every case makes it to Taxpayer Advocate, but the ones they do take on, in my experience, have come to completion. All right? And they've reached the resolution. Whether it's a good resolution or not so good, it got done. And finally, we could put that matter to bed and move on with all of our lives, and our clients can move on with their lives. So they can be very effective, very helpful. I say this from personal experience. I don't get any sort of compensation for talking good or bad about the IRS. Trust me, they have their faults, they have their good sides. Taxpayer Advocate, I think, is definitely a good benefit to have on the taxpayer side. Now, we talked about the fact that the IRS is backed up. Their phones don't work. The Taxpayer Advocate may not take on your case. So where does that leave us? It's a great question. In this situation, it may be helpful to reach out to a tax professional, such as an enrolled agent, EA, CPA, what have you. The reason being is that us professionals have our own phone number, being cool as we are, that we can use to reach out to the IRS to resolve tax matters. It's called the tax practitioner line. And it used to be that we would call at the beginning of the day or end of the day and get right through to the tax practitioner line. Now, given all the issues with COVID, that is also backed up. So very frequently, us tax pros will get blocked from calling just like regular taxpayers. And it's frustrating, it's annoying, but at the end of the day, really, what can you do? The situation is what it is. They'll eventually get caught up. And the new budget that's being proposed does have increases for the IRS, so they'll maybe be able to hire more people, invest a little bit more in technology. But given the circumstances at the moment, getting a tax pro involved may be your best bet. As a regular non-tax professional, you cannot call the tax practitioner line. They're not going to talk to you. But if you get a tax pro involved, first of all, we can try to get through more often throughout the day potentially. And once we get through, we can help, 5 taxpayers, 3 taxpayers, what have you. So we tend to have to make those calls anyway. Once we get through, we can address your issue, find out what the matter is that's holding everything up, and get it resolved a lot more quickly. So that way, working with a tax pro, you don't have to keep calling the IRS on the regular line. It's extremely backed up, more so than the tax pro line. You don't have to bother with Taxpayer Advocate just yet. All right. It can be a quicker resolution just to get a tax pro on it. And that can allow you to find out what is actually going on with the 2019 returns. So with that, SI 2K18, hopefully this helps shed some light on all of these crazy issues and allows you to get that much closer to resolving your tax matter there regarding tax year 2019. So if you're watching and found this video helpful, feel free to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. And if you ask a good question, I might just answer it in a video just like this one. With that said, hopefully this was helpful. Thanks for watching.